All right, welcome to this episode of the GymInformer podcast. I'm Chris Gilbert, your host for this episode, and today our guest is Chris Grady, the owner of Valley Barbell out in Front Royal, Virginia. This is a almost fairly brand new gym, but it's got that old school feel, super cool. I'm excited to talk to Chris about it. But before we get started, let's take a pause and I'll show you the photos I took of the gym while I was there. All right, Chris, how long, the gym's pretty new, right?
Yeah, we actually turned 6 months old on the 1st of March.
Okay, wow. Could you just tell everybody or give us a little bit of like how you went from where you were, because you're pretty young still, right?
Yeah, actually just turned 29 in December.
Okay, so how do you go from where you were before you owned the gym to being a gym owner?
So it's a long road, right? So starting off, I graduated from Shenandoah, and I had kinesiology from there. Got a teaching degree. Thought I was going to go into teaching. Things kind of fell through in that aspect, and I actually got on at UPS right over the past 5 years. That's where I worked after I graduated, and in terms of getting into the gym game, right? When I was still working at UPS, I had all my clients and wrestling kids and athletes I trained, and I did all that from my garage. So I built a pretty cool garage gym, always kind of kept my hand in and it kept my name kind of relevant in the area when it came to working with athletes and whatnot. And then a couple years ago, I kind of made the decision, like I need to kind of, this is what I want to do, right? So how am I going to get there? And it kind of just started through COVID, people getting their hands on all this equipment. And then luckily for me, right, COVID kind of winds down and people have their hands on all this commercial equipment that I could jump on, right? You could find great deals if you're just willing to put in the time and drive to go get it. Right. So it was a couple years of doing some dirty work, right? Working my job full time. I got 2 young kids, and then just picking up things like literally 2-3 times a week if I can, whenever I could get my hands on, line things up. Had storage units, or had my garage full. My buddy's garage was full. My mom has an office, and on the back of her office is like a big double bay garage. Had that thing loaded up. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, so then I finally went through my list one day, and I'm like, man, I actually got enough like to start, right? So put in about 8 months of just my head in the grinder, like anything that came up available in town, because I wanted to keep it in Front Royal. I'm born and raised Front Royal, and this is something our area has always needed and never really had, right? So I finally found a spot and I locked it in and hit the ground running from there.
So cool. So you've got, it's a pretty unique gym. Well, I guess not unique in the fact that it's an old school bodybuilding gym. So like you said, you couldn't just decide today that you wanted to open a gym like yours. Like You can't just call up Life Fitness or Arsenal or Atlantis and just say, send me a full gym worth of equipment. Like it took you a while to accumulate all of this equipment, as you were just saying. How did you decide what pieces you wanted?
Man, honestly, I guess like I'm kind of like you in the sense of wherever I've traveled or wherever I go, or even in the area, right? Since I've been 16, 17 years old, I was the guy that had 3 or 4 gym memberships. I would go to specific places because they had certain machines, right? So being able to go a bunch of different places and get your hands on a bunch of different equipment and kind of like dial in on like, okay, I like this, I got to have something like that. And then for me, it was kind of like encompassing the full variety of multiple machines, right? So, you kind of go to a commercial gym and they're kind of locked in on like, okay, they got to have a name brand, you know what I mean? Where the cool thing about all the gyms like us that are coming around and popping up and growing, which is awesome, is that we have the freedom to select like, okay, I like this brand, I like this brand, and then be able to provide that variety to the people.
Yeah, and it was a big variety of different manufacturers you had, so that was really cool. And you, for only being 6 months old, you've got a pretty decent amount of equipment. Like,
Yeah, man. So when I opened up, I had like a goal. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna open up, and I had a fair amount of stuff, right? But then I opened the door, and I'm like, my goal is every month I'm gonna get at least one new thing, right?
oh,
And then
nice.
that basically turned into like one new thing a week, damn near. And I'm ripping and running and trying to line up meeting this person and making these weekend trips, and here we are, right? So now we've like got to the point where, in terms of what I think I can find on like the marketplace stuff, unless you come across like a good deal, now we're finally getting into ordering the bigger name brands, the Gym Leco, the Gym Max Effort, and things of that nature. So, and you know how
Right.
it is now. It's just kind of like a waiting game of when you order it, then you got to give it the 6 to 8 month window.
Yeah. Are there pieces that are still out there, old school pieces that are still out there that you wish you had that you haven't found yet?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to find the classics, man. I'm looking for like the. I would love to get my hands on a pullover. That's a big one, but
Yeah, the old school Nautilus chain driven one.
yeah, they're beautiful.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, those are great. I was at a gym down in Atlanta and they had six different ones.
really.
Yeah, it was crazy. Um, but I also love the atmosphere you had. Like I know you've had Jesse in probably several different times for the amount of murals that you've got in the gym.
Yeah, man.
Um,
So Jesse's awesome, dude. Luckily, me and him actually hit it off, and we got a super good friendship. So anytime he's even in the area, me and him talk pretty much daily at this point, and
oh,
he'll hit
cool.
me up and be like, "Hey, man, I'm coming by Front Royal," and I always got something to do. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, when we started off, he did the big mural, and then when he was here last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, that's when we hit the quote above the wall and the Egyptian god painting of
Hmm.
the wolf. We got that out in the hallway, and then honestly, man, like to me, right, you want to establish like your culture, and then one of the biggest compliments is we got is like the gym has a personality, right? So
Right. Oh, totally.
you're not walking into like a stale atmosphere. When you come here, it's like, bam, this is who we are, right? And it's time to go to work. So I love that aspect of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, you walk in and it's like, okay, like this is hardcore. Like everything about your gym, from the concrete floors to the old school equipment to the murals on the wall, says hardcore.
I appreciate that, man. Now
So
that's like that's exactly what I was going for, man.
yeah. Is that why you went with concrete floors rather than a rubber floor, or?
Yeah, I actually loved it, man. So actually, when I moved in here, that was carpeted. So I like tore all that carpet out and went and rented one of those big machines to chip it up. And then I'm standing there and I'm like, I love this. I love the look of this. So I just ended up sealing that and went there and just matted down the free weight area and the dumbbells and whatnot. But yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to go away from the Concord 4, man. I think that is like kind of part of the attitude.
No, I think it's cool. Like I've been to a couple old school bodybuilding gyms that have concrete floors, and it just it just kind of adds to that appeal. It gives you that like really old school, down and dirty kind of vibe.
Yeah, man.
But your gym, just so everybody's clear, like the gym's not dirty. Like you had a very clean gym. It was very organized. Everything's organized by body part. I'm assuming that was on purpose.
Oh yeah, yeah. It took a lot of layout and moving around to do all that, but
So I know you've only been open for 6 months, but you're obviously an ambitious guy.
Mhm.
What's next for Valley? Are you hoping that the gym's going to get bigger? Do you have plans at some point to potentially open a second Valley Barbell, or is
Oh
this
yeah.
your spot and this is where you're staying?
Nah, absolutely, man. I'm always, you get that feeling of that scared doubt feeling, and then
Hmm.
once you get that, it, I think most of the people like us, right? We're not the kinds that like to live in the comfort, so we're chasing that, right? Actually, right now on at the entry of our building, there's about another 2,500 square feet, and we're working on that. And over there, we're actually going to go with a like more of a jujitsu, boxing, MMA guy I got, and he's going to move in down here hopefully within like the next 30 to 60 days. He's kind of just working out all the kinks for him. And then we're going to run like a collab. And then long term, man, the goal is definitely to take Valley Barbell to a lot of different locations. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, anytime, if you get a second location, you definitely need to let us know, and we would love to be out there. Now you mentioned, I'm going to go back to equipment. You mentioned getting some, like, transitioning from, keeping the old school, but also going with some new school stuff also. Is there a manufacturer you really got your eye on, or is there one that's sticking out more than the other, or does it depend on the piece for you?
I'm kind of a piece guy, right? It kind of varies. I think all the new brands, when you talk about the Max Efforts, the GymLecos, the Atlantises, they all kind of got obviously great equipment. Right. And if you actually can go down, like me and you had a conversation, and I go down to the shop, and luckily the shop is a 30, 40-minute drive from me, and I can go down there and test all this stuff before I have to spend the money to buy it. And down there is where I can get that feel of like, okay, I really like this. Even it could be an inch difference on like the converge of a chest press, but we got a GymLeco chest press hopefully supposed to come in next week. The war at like the Red Sea or whatever, that's kind of throwing off getting stuff delivered. But yeah. So I'm not married to anything, you know what I mean? I'm definitely more open to kind of hand picking, like, I love this, I like this. So it's cool, man, because I don't know if you're familiar with Front Royal, but I've born and raised here, man, and we've never had anything like this. Like, I wish I had this when I was.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. Like, I grew up in a small town in southern Indiana that's like to this day is 12,000 people.
Yeah, man.
So like, I get what you're talking about. My wife grew up in Culpeper, which isn't that different than Front Royal.
Yeah. I got a pile of Culpeper people, man.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, there's a gym in Culpeper, but it's not your gym.
Yeah.
Not that old school bodybuilding, like hardcore gym. I know you've only been open for 6 months, as we talked about, but I'm sure you've learned a lot of lessons thus far. Are there some things that you've learned from opening the gym and some advice you would give to someone who is thinking about opening a gym?
Man, the biggest part, I will say, working at UPS, I went into management for the last couple of years, and I got to learn a lot of stuff about business, right? Which transitioned straight into me trying to wear multiple hats. Like, I'm the guy behind the scenes. I'm the guy making sure your door works. I'm the guy making sure your membership goes through. I'm the guy showing you the gym, meeting you, talking to you. And that's probably my favorite thing. I take pride in, like, at least 98% of the people here, I know their name, something about them, and can have that conversation. I think number one, right, if you're going to open a gym and if you're going to try to set like your tone, you got to be the person that leads that example, right? And be able to meet people, talk to people, retain information about people, and be able to connect with them on that kind of level. That's kind of my number one thing that I love about this position. Okay. And secondly, another one, man, would be once you decide like how I laid this out, right? And how Valley Barbell is kind of like an in-your-face type of gym. You know what I mean? When you walk in, it's got the attitude, and don't ever let anybody waver you from that. You know what I mean? Once you decide, like, this is the kind of route I want to take, then you just kind of got to go full force and ride that horse, man.
So that's awesome. Yeah. That's very cool. I thought the gym was great. I was on chest day. I wish I'd have been there on a leg day. I had just done legs the day before. You had some super cool leg equipment that I would have loved to have used. So maybe next time I'm out there, I'll hit you up and come by on leg day.
Come by anytime, man.
So I appreciate you coming on, and look forward to seeing what's next for Valley Barbell.
Sweet, man. Thank you.
Cool.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more great content.